It's the secrets that make us sick. You can't fix what you won't acknowledge. So let's have a conversation of this time. We're taking it out of the box, yeah, yeah. We're taking it out of the box. We're taking it out of the box. You know it's time. So let's talk about it.
Well, all right, guys and ladies and gentlemen, it's Tuesday night. It's 7 o'clock, and it is time for Outside the Box. And we have an interesting show. I got my reliable people here, uh, Bishop Kevin Foreman and Pastor Eric Jones. You know, y'all
Yes.
see, Pastor. You didn't see Bishop throw you the deuces. You're not paying attention,
What's
Bishop.
up, Bishop?
Hey,
How you doing, man?
sir.
All right. So we have what I think is an interesting conversation set for tonight. Um, it's funny. Jones called me today. He's like, "Man, quit biting off of my post." And I was like, "What's funny is that this is a conversation that Pastor Free and I had a month or two ago, and it's just amazing that things come around full circle." So let me start. I think by I'm gonna start it by Pastor. I'm gonna go to your page. Let me see, Pastor E. How's your page listed? I don't even remember. Oh, there you
Uh,
go. All right, I found you. I'm gonna start by going to his page, and I want to read something, and then we'll go from there. Pastor Jones wrote on his page, "What would you do if you walked into Papa Do's or anywhere else and saw your pastor having an alcoholic drink with their meal? Just curious, looking for answers." And what was interesting is when he and I talked earlier today, these comments are over 265 comments. But a week ago, he posted Bishop Foreman about somebody getting saved, and there were hardly no comments. So I'm convinced people like messy stuff anyway. Uh, uh, Human nature, absolutely. So, but it's so funny, as I said, because this is a conversation that Pastor Free, we were talking about just kind of some, show ideas and things like that. And this was kind of one of them. And so, what I want to, I guess, start off by saying is, Pastor Jones, and I'll start with you, is there instinctively something wrong with how quickly we crucify the pastor?
yeah, yeah. There's something wrong with it. Um, quite frankly, I'm gonna try to say some words that don't throw Bishop Foreman off today. So I'm gonna talk in my daddy spirit. But I think so. This is one of those things where I'm a little bit more personal on because I think people hold pastors. Uh, so you often hear people say pastors are held to a greater standard, right?
Yes.
But that's not even the reality. The reality is pastors are held to their standards, and when we don't meet their standards of what they created us to be, then we're wrong, right? And
I think
so,
that's
so, so, go ahead.
no, I'm just saying. I think that's an interesting way to
Well,
phrase it.
because for so long I pastored in a box that nobody gave me a key to. And
Wow.
so I didn't even know why I was there. You know, if you think back to yourself when you were a kid, when you were in elementary, and you go into HEB and you saw your teacher there, and you're like, "What are you doing here?" Like, that's my teacher. Nobody expects their teacher to be at HEB. Well, how else are they going to eat? You know, what does that mean? That means we put them on a level that they didn't put themselves. And so I guess my biggest issue is most people will condone their pastor for doing something they do every day.
You mean condemn?
Huh?
Condemn?
Condemn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most people will condemn their pastor for something that I said condone. You're right. Thank you, Bishop. That's my dude. They will condemn their pastor for something that they do every day.
So, but let me ask you this, Jones, before I get to Bishop. But is there a line that pastors should not cross?
Yes. And I think matter of fact, there's multiple lines. But I also believe that there's also lines that pastors should not cross publicly.
Okay, and so there's okay. What's the distinction?
The distinction is not what I'm able to handle, but what you're able to handle. And so I found out that I was wrong, but I was chastised by an older pastor friend of mine. Not chastised, corrected. But I used to say, it is not my responsibility to be held accountable for your lack of biblical knowledge. And in reality, there are just some people who I don't believe are educated enough biblically to even know where they should be standing on any position or any judgment, you know. And so I think you just got to be careful, because you don't want to be responsible for anybody moving backwards spiritually because of your actions.
So, Bishop, Jones said there are at least two lines: what pastors shouldn't do and what pastors shouldn't do publicly. Do you agree with that?
I think it's always, the Bible says, don't let your good be evil spoken of. I think there's a principle there. I think the principle is just because I can doesn't mean, and the Apostle Paul even talks about this, just because I can doesn't necessarily mean that I should in a public setting. And because of this reason, because of how it can be misunderstood, misconstrued, misrepresented. Yesterday evening during prayer, I was praying and I was caught up in what I was saying, and I was trying to say necrosis. I was talking about leprosy and how leprosy is a disease of the immune system. You get wounded, you don't know that you're wounded, and you can begin to have necrosis of your skin. What came out was necrophilia, which is, for those who may not be familiar with it,
Bad people.
That is sex with dead people, or an infatuation with.
Oh, infatuation. Yeah.
Right. And so, and then I prayed, and then I went back into it, and the wrong word was still in my head. So I did a video yesterday after prayer, and one of our great harvesters had brought it to my attention. I said, "Oh my goodness, I did not even pay attention to the fact that I said the wrong word." And so, I did a quick video. But my point is that to someone who maybe it was their first time, one of two things happened. Either one, they thought literally. Now, here's the amazing thing about what I was saying is, even in the error and how I misspoke, it was still a powerful point, because some people are still sleeping with dead things. But that's a whole word.
You're trying to shout me, but that's that ain't what.
That's on the word. But the truth is, so a person, that could have been misconstrued as, well, why is he talking about sleeping with dead people? I've had people, when I have on my rings, I typically have a ring that's an Alpha and Omega ring on this hand during the week, if it's not a Harvest V or something like that. And I've had people get on and say, look at your wife, talk about wild Bishop for me. I have had people get on and say, he's got on a Mason ring, he's an Illuminati. I was like, all kind of stuff, right? So things can be misconstrued. And I think here's the real deal, is for every leader has to decide, what do they want to do publicly that they believe they're comfortable with, they're okay with, that it's not something that's going to be misconstrued. At the same time, the flip side of that coin, double side coin, to the pure, all things are pure. To the defiled, everything is defiled. That's Bible. It's Titus. So to somebody who's looking for something wrong, they're going to find something wrong. If you wear baggy clothes, they're going to say you're outdated. You wear form-fitting clothes, they're going to say your stuff is too tight. If you got just for men on your beard, they're going to say you hiding the truth. If it's gray, they're going to say you look, or whatever. People are going to see what they want to see. People are going to see whatever they want to see. So that's not my responsibility. I just have to decide what I'm comfortable sharing publicly.
Oh, okay. But that kind of brings me to this before I jump back to Jones. So are you responsible for somebody's misunderstanding or bad understanding?
No, I'm not responsible for it. However, I do have to be mindful about what could be from a mass standpoint, about what could be misunderstood. Case in point, there's a viral video right now of a pastor who said, if a pastor is single, right?
Yeah, I was going to go there.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yes.
This is why we're friends, right? If a pastor's single, he said, well, he either got to be gay or choking the chicken.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Bible says, man, it's not good for man to be alone. So there are so many fallacies in that statement, right? One, Paul was single, Timothy was single, Titus was single, Jesus was single. Hello. So there's so many errors with that. Here's the problem. I don't know what he said before that or after that. So because I'm mature, my initial response is, it's probably best for everybody to just keep their own house clean, worry about everybody else's house. That's my initial. Literally, somebody texted me. I said, he should probably just keep his own house clean. That's what he should do. Literally, that's what I said. I said, I don't know the guy. All I know is when you start throwing rocks at people, you just probably shouldn't do that because you have a glass house. But whatever, man, that's fine. If that's how you feel, that's how you feel. But I don't know what he said before or after. So me as a mature person, I wrote it off. I just said, no, okay. I mean, that's not my issue. That's his thing. He has to be mindful of the fact that statement, though, people have now judged and labeled him based on that, because whenever you say something in a public forum, you have to realize it will be subject to public scrutiny. I'm not responsible for that, but you have to be mindful of it will be subject to public scrutiny.
So Jones, my wife writes, people misunderstand things all the time. There's no way pastors should be held accountable for their misunderstandings. And while I agree, in theory with that, that's just not reality. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree with it in theory. It's just not reality at all.
So here's then the thing. And I wish somebody in the comments would tell me. So if you're listening, what's the real issues? Because Jones made a statement at the very beginning. Most people are offended at pastors doing the same things that they do. So if you're a non-pastor, in the comments, I'd like to know, what's your real issue with seeing the humanity of the man of God? What's your real issue with seeing him smoke or drink or cuss or I don't know what other things are.
I think, though, some people don't. I think sometimes I know I have been guilty of this, is taking the odious opinion of a few and wiping it and washing it as the majority. I think the majority of people don't care.
I think that's an ambitious thought, Bishop.
I think the majority of people don't care, and the only reason I can say that is, and you know what? Let me rephrase. Let me not use majority. Let me use many. I think many people do not care, and what I mean by do not care is not that they, just anything goes, right? But in terms of if a man has human moments and human experiences, I think that many people will look at those experiences and look at them through the lenses of okay, well, whatever, that type of a thing. I think this is just my view from a high level. I think that perhaps the people that have the issues are also people who probably, Bishop, you seen these comments come in? You can
Yeah,
comments.
I'm about to. I'm letting you finish. David.
I think the truth is the people who have issues are people who have, back to my point, they have issues with everything. They got issues with everything. They got an opinion on everything. And normally those are people who don't have a lot of fruit because they're busybodies, and busybodies don't have their own business. So they get into other people's business because I've never seen a successful person be a gossip. Never seen it. I've never seen a successful person be listen to this term, a philanderer of the mouth. I've never seen that.
That was good.
Of the mouth. I've not seen that. So, to me, people who normally I got something to say. People normally don't tithe, don't give, don't serve. They don't do nothing. So they got enough time to make noise because the people who are doing the work, they'll look at it, you'll deal with the issue, and you keep it moving.
Okay. It hurts to discover your heroes, lowercase g gods, are human and they bleed. Why, Jones? Why? Why does it hurt? Why does it hurt to know that you're human?
Because I believe that's just kind of how we grew up, And then keep in mind, pastors today are more accessible, transparent than pastors of old.
I agree with
wouldn't
that.
be able to tell me that my pastor drank when I was a kid. You know what I mean? And then a lot of people form opinions without any basis. They just form it, And so I think with me and my church, let me say that after my fall, I'll say what it was. After my fall, right? I came up. I have a mindset that I'll never again allow people to put me on a pedestal. Never again. Because it never determines how high you are. It only determines how far you're going to fall. Right? And so I make sure that I am not representing myself as to somebody that I'm not. Right? And so, for example, Lord, I hope my mom ain't watching this because she hate this. But I tell my people all the time, if somebody said they saw your pastor at the store buying a beer, you tell them you're a lie. My pastor buy them 6 at a time, right? He ain't gonna buy just one, right? Here it is. Watch this. Now, when you keep that in mind, there might be somebody that's watching that's offended by that, right? There might be somebody that's not a member of EBC who's offended by that, right? I only pastor my people. And so I'm going to always be real with my people, right? Everybody wants their pastor to be on this pedestal, once again, that they put them on, right? But let something happen. And then you need your pastor to put hands on somebody, right? Then it's okay for them to have human moments. So that's what I don't like. I don't like selective humanness. I don't like it when your pastor is human as long as it benefits you. I don't like that your pastor is human as long as you gain something out of it, And so I don't allow people to put me there. I just don't allow them to, My name is.
But but what effect does that level of transparency with your congregation, how does that speak to the larger issue of the witness of Pastor Eric Jones?
Well, it's kind of like what Bishop Foreman said. Just because you have the power to do it, you should do it. And so I don't do everything just because I can. You know what I mean? As a matter of fact, I'm very selective. Then I see Free's name on it. I start laughing. I'm very selective as where I go watch basketball, football, baseball game at. I'm very selective, you know. Matter of fact, I can't wait to go on vacation Sunday so I can just go be Eric. You
And not
know,
have not to
you
have
know,
Pastor Jones hat on.
Bishop Foreman, I'm sorry, I don't mean to take up too, but I'm tired of apologizing for that though. I'm tired of apologizing to people for being who they are, but they expect me to be more than they are. I'm tired of it, you know, and so, you know, that's my 2 cents. Be quiet before I go on.
Okay, good. I want to address a couple more things, and then I have a very strange question that I'm going to ask each of you to address. Let's see here. We did this one. Let's see. I see them in their own position of self as an individual. They're responsible for their own salvation. Okay. I disagree. I believe there are more people that care than you know, given all of the backlash that pastors receive for being human. Interesting. People who have issues with pastors usually have a small sample size of personal interactions with pastors. I like that. I think that's real good there, Q. Let's see. The issue is those pastors leaders that came before did all those things in private as if it was okay. Then when the pastors issue came out, it was a big thing. But pastors today are breaking that trend to show they are human but still carry the word. But Chris, this is I think what I'm about. This is where the shift that I was going to kind of go into. Is it that they did it in private, or is it that now? Because I think there might be a battle, and Free, I want you to jump on this one first. There may be a battle of, are we preaching a standard that we don't uphold? And so now the people are saying, okay, you preaching about hoeing, but you a hoe. You preaching about drinking, but you a drunk. You preaching about, so is it possible that there's a lot of preaching about stuff that now that we're doing, and so there's a justification for folks to have some issue with how we live? Free, that's for you first.
Good evening to everybody. Pardon my tardiness. I was being a pastor, and since I'm human, I could only be in one place at a time. I want to answer that on multiple levels. First of all, I struggle with this. Like I was a boy preacher, so I was like, man, I can't be preaching because I don't want to do everything that's in the Bible like right away. And then one day I realized my doctor was fat, and that kind of like resonated with me on a weird level. That the person who was responsible for my health, not my adult doctor, but as a teenager, was a overweight Asian man. So like for him to administer medicine, it didn't necessarily mean that he was living it as an expert in his own life, right? So whatever I preach, hopefully I'm trying to live it, right? But I can't take it out the Bible just because I haven't mastered it yet. Our job is to preach the word. Now we do have a responsibility to be an example, and so I think that being a just flat out hypocrite, that that's whack. But at the same time, just because I'm preaching something doesn't mean I've mastered it. And so the same word that we release, we also have to receive. And I think people need to understand that we're all works in progress. God doesn't call perfect people, right? As a matter of fact, I could probably make the argument that he consistently chooses the worst people, except for Bishop Foreman. He chose a polished product with Bishop Foreman. Everybody else, I'm looking at on the screen, and y'all some sinners, and so God, that's just the way He does. So I think that's one part, but then I think the other part is the truth of the matter is I'm a big proponent for, like, if you gonna sin or if you gonna struggle in private. I am that way. Now I know that there's a bunch of people who will say, well, the thing is they need to see the real and this, that, and the other. But I believe the Bible is very specific about, even some things that you can do. You have the liberty to do, but you shouldn't cause other people to stumble. And so there are some things that are permissible to me, but I choose not to because I understand the mantle and the leadership responsibility and capacity that I wear. And I'm always mindful of this thought, and I'll shut up, that I don't want to be responsible for taking somebody to a place that I can come back from, but they can't. Because I wear the mantle of a leader. I don't want to take somebody into a space, a place, a situation that's nothing for me, right? And I can snap back from it. It doesn't injure me spiritually. It doesn't cause me, any type of harm. But that person is affected in a way that they never come back from. And I just don't ever want that on my hands. So I'm not perfect, but you're not going to see my imperfect. Well, you probably will, but not intentionally. You're never intentionally going to see my imperfections because I don't want to be responsible for harming or hindering anybody.
Oh, okay. But with that in mind, Foreman, here's what I want you to answer. Then I have some more comments I'll get to. But here's what I want. Okay. So because kind of keeping with what Pastor Free is just talking about.
Right.
But so I'm taking my wife out to a nice dinner. We having steak and lobster, even though I don't eat lobster. We having steak and lobster and Mernet. Is it Mernet or Merlot sauce, whatever? And I don't want a Dr. Pepper. I want a glass of Chardonnay or Pinot Noir. So can I not, because I'm trying to be so darn protective of what somebody else might say, am I not allowed to have my time with my wife on our special day because, whoa, be careful, I might offend somebody who sees me having some wine?
Well, see, again, offense is different than sin. So one, just for the sake of being clear too, I am human, Pastor Free. I could assure you, come spend the day with me. but no, but in all, and I know you're just joking, but in all seriousness, so drinking wine, I mean, that's not sinful. I mean, drunkenness is the sin. Now, if you sloppy drunk with your wife and you calling her out her name and all that, and you got your cross and chain over here with your Bible, you better be at church tomorrow. Well, we have a problem, sir. All right, we have a problem. That's a problem. Okay, but drinking wine is not sinful. And I think there's the other issue. Back to one of the comments earlier, is that a person saying I have an issue finding their faults. To be honest, for me, and this is back to my point, to the pure, it's pure. To the defiled, it's defiled. I loved learning the proclivities, nuances, weaknesses of men of God that I revered. You know why? Because it made me realize they were human and I'm human and they're called and I'm called. And so we all working on our salvation with fear and trembling. I don't want to hear pastors good stuff. I don't care nothing about your budget, how many people. I don't care nothing. Where are you hurt right now? Where are you struggling? Where are you dealing with some? Let's talk about that. Because I could care less about the wins. Because if you want to start having a urinating contest, then just drink a lot of water and we can do that. Outside of that, I don't care about that. Tell me where you hurt and tell me where you're struggling, because from our weaknesses, that's where we can get stronger. So there's the issue. And I see somebody say it's not overindulgence. It's not that. Let's be very specific. The Bible says drunkenness. Overindulgence is a relative and it's a subjective term. So the Bible is very clear about drunkenness. So we want to make sure that we just stick with the word. So that's the whole point. So a person who says, I just don't want my pastor to drink, well, that's your prerogative. And you can do what you want to do. If that's an issue for you and you find that out, you got a problem, that's your issue. Just make sure that same measure of judgment you use on him, you use that on yourself.
But here's the problem with what you said, Bishop. The problem is that many times people can't make or don't make the distinction between sin and the other word just left my mind, i.e. having a drink and being drunk. They see it as the same thing. So when they can't make the distinction, then what are you left to?
That's not my issue. I learned to not make other people, this me and the other gentleman, I'd love to hear their thoughts. I learned a long time ago not to make other people's issues my issues. You know what I want to learn? Because when I started getting lied on, and every pastor on here, I would imagine, has experienced that. Every person in your chat has experienced being lied on. You ain't never been lied on, Pastor? You ain't been lied on. Listen, because he's more human than a man. So I discovered that the truth to some was irrelevant. It didn't matter. If you had a preconceived notion or something you wanted to believe, that's just what you were going to believe. So whatever you saw reinforced what you wanted to believe in the first place. We have a whole political faction in the United States that they could care less what the facts are. For them, give us an individual who has lost everything he's ever done, who has lied every time he opens his mouth. But this to them, they see that as God's anointed, and this is, they want to believe that. So I have discovered that that's just not my issue. So if a person can't make that distinction, I will teach what's right. I will do my best to give a great example. But at the end of the day, if that's your issue, and that's not my issue.
But so Jones, how do you overcome their issue? Or do you?
What I stopped doing is I stopped fighting social sin a long time ago. There's social sin and you have biblical sin. And social sin is what people deem. Social sin is, cleanliness is next to godliness. That's social sin. That's just something somebody heard, something somebody been told. And I think that people, they're going to perceive what they perceive, and so it's kind of hard to overcome. However, back to what Pastor Free said, and kind of back to what I said earlier, I'm very careful on how I present myself, especially out in public. Like, the scariest thing in the world is to be at HEB getting something that people deem as social sin, and all you hear in the back of your mind, back of your, hey, Pastor E, right? The first thing you do is check your basket, right? and so I just think I just kind of stopped. I kind of stopped fighting that and worrying about it, because it doesn't matter what you do. I am convinced there's nothing like the heart of a pastor, right? And no matter what flaws or whatever we may have, it does not change our heart for our people, our wanting to have our people saved. It does not change the countless of hours of studying just to preach for 25 minutes. It doesn't change. What's funny is I can stand in the pulpit and say, I'm flawed, but I'm saved. And everybody say, hallelujah, thank you, Jesus, throw towels and peppermints, right? But what happens outside of the pulpit, and that's why I don't believe every time people cheer for me. I just think that's what's there for that moment. Yeah.
You better not. Okay. And Chris said people will talk regardless. So and I think that's true. So let's see here. I think a pastor being overly protective of your witness also hurts people. You have to show people a certain level of humanity. Otherwise, people will aim for the unrealistic goal of perfection. But here, how do you measure that, Free? How do you measure how much to show without showing too much, so that the platform doesn't become even higher than what it is now?
So I'm gonna just keep it 100. Like, the way I feel about all of this is that the issue becomes when you try to be a pastor than a Christian, right? I still try to be a Christian first, right? So I've been called to a different level of service. Maybe I wear a different mantle, but I still have to work out my salvation with fear and trembling. So I've got to please God first, right? As a Christ follower, and I try to allow that to govern me before my title. And I think a lot of people would be in a better place if that was the case, right? If I fall, it's because I'm a Christian who's struggling to live this life. The fact that I'm a pastor, that I didn't ask for this. Like, God decided this, and so I'm trying to figure it out. Now, what I will say to Q's comment is, I do think a level of transparency is necessary, but I think you also have to be very aware of your context. I can't be too transparent. I've tried to build my ministry on being transparent, because it's a grace ministry, the whole nine. But I also understand that there are some things that I can let you know about me that I can't let you see about me, because at the end of the day, I got a baby out of wedlock. Our first son was born before we were married. Like, I got enough skeletons. I got enough dirt for you to build your case, or for you to appreciate my realness off of the past, right? So I need to kind of live so that God can use me now, because at some point it's not that you real, it's that this is who you want to be. Right. If you ain't improving, you ain't better. Right. You've been in ministry. I've been preaching 30 years now. If I'm still making the exact same mistakes and living the same raggedy way as I was as a teenage preacher, then something is wrong with my Holy Ghost. And so I get that the idea of being transparent and allowing people to see some things, but I also need to let them see me being transformed and let them see me growing up in God and becoming a better man, a better father, a better husband, and so on and so forth. And only by setting that example can we expect for them to follow that example. And so I'm pretty adamant about not showing people my struggles per se. I'll talk about it, but I'm not going to show you, right? I'll admit it. I'll confess, because that's what the Bible say. Confess your faults one to another so that you can be healed. It doesn't say show your faults. And so I'm not trying to show my faults, but I'm willing to confess them as I work out my salvation, like I said, with fear and trembling. At the end of the day, my biggest thing, like I said before, my biggest thing is if I'm a cut up, I'm usually going to cut up with other pastors. And I'm going to do that because my assumption is you should be mature enough in your faith to where you can handle what your own life circumstances can say, you know, we can sit here and have a couple of drinks and a couple of laughs or whatever. And hopefully you're not going to walk away from God because you saw Pastor Free uncovered. But I do know that there are some people that they just can't handle that. They would say, see, I knew ain't none of this church stuff real. I knew if they gonna literally say, if Pastor E can't get it right, I'll never get it right. And so I think another part that's kind of the underlying tension here for me is the hypocrisy. So like, if I think I've built my persona to where if somebody saw me drinking at Bombshells, they would just say, that's Pastor Free. Like we didn't expect that he wouldn't do that. But I think the problem is there are some people who present this image of godliness and holiness and roundly condemn other people for living. And so it really hurts people when they've been hearing you talk like that. And now you showing them something different. And so I think that's what I'm talking about more so. You know, we're gonna all make mistakes, we're gonna all fall short. But when you sitting here holding people to a standard that you're not even trying to meet, then that's the thing that I believe people get really hurt behind. The hypocrisy, like you have created a standard for me that you yourself are not trying to live by.
And I think that the folks that have genuine concerns about pastors and leaders and their humanity really get that from those people, because we know there are some folks who are big social media folks, big time folks. They're always preaching holiness, 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 and living helly, 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 helly all the time, right? And I think that that's where I want to make sure that the line is clear, is that, you know, you'll have a hard time convincing people of your genuine love for God and to live this godly Christian life, but still responsible for preaching the whole Bible, not parts that you are safe in. If they don't see you being a beater of people who have issues, or being a beater of people with issues, the same one that you have, and you don't seem to care about having that issue. Pastor Jason said, I also started preaching as a teenager. I also allowed people's perception of preachers to affect my personality. I've since learned to never allow that. You can't. You absolutely cannot. Transforming is being transparent in manifestation for the body's sake to certain core members. You know, I used to also, Karen, I'm gonna just tell you, I used to think that there was a trusted few in the core that you could be transparent with. Let me tell you, people can't have, they say they can, and maybe they even want to. But the truth is, I'm like Free. I got to be uncovered around folks that are on the same place I am.
Man, let me say this. So I got my MDiv at Austin Press, and in our pastoral ethics class, something was said that kind of it hasn't shaped me, but it stuck with me. They were saying my ethics professor was saying that it's unethical for a wife to attend the church where her husband is the pastor.
Wow.
Now, of course, growing up in the black tradition, if your wife go, you could be the janitor, and if your wife go to another church, it's something wrong. And so the idea that the premise behind it was, well, then that wife doesn't have a pastor, right? If her struggle is then who does she talk to? And of course, we can find ways around. I'm okay with my wife talking to another pastor about whatever, or a pastor's wife. So I understand ways around it, but that principle kind of stuck with me, and I kind of generalize it to the fact that when you have a core group of people that you let close to you, you let them in your house, they may see you differently than the congregation. It's all fine and dandy until you have to be their pastor. And I don't care who they are. I don't care how spiritual they are. At some point, it's going to be a challenge for them to reverence and respect you as the man of God if you have been common with them. And people can say that they don't agree, and that's cool. I just know that it is true that, it takes a special type of person to even be able to maintain respect after seeing you in a common light. And even if they can respect you, there's still going to be some things that they're going to they're going to be challenged in following you. They're going to feel like they can respond to you differently than other people do. And that's going to cause some public issues, right? Well, why does so-and-so talk to pastor like that? Like, what that's about? You know what I'm saying? And so we can act like that stuff ain't real, but it is real. When you allow people to be common with you, then a natural human tendency is for them to be challenged in the area of respect, and it's gonna happen.
Bishop Foreman, how many non-pastor friends do you have?
I only befriend people who are at my level or do what I do. So you need to be
that's the reason why. Exactly.
You need to be an executive, or you need to own something, or you need to be very successful at whatever you do. I've never seen eagles. I've never seen, shepherds should be with other shepherds. Leaders should be with leaders. That's just that's just the way I operate. That's just me. Some pastors like being around their people and having them at their house and all that. And I used to do that.
Until you hit the pastor.
It only takes one time. Shepherds forget that sheep have teeth. It only took one time.
Deshaun, you shaking your head when he says shepherds forget that sheep have teeth. I love it.
And these niggas sheep be having like gold teeth. These niggas sheep will bite you with gold teeth, Doc.
Free is dumb. I'm only here for free on here. That's all the reason why I'm here. Jennifer's free here.
Okay,
but you know what? Because you know what, Bright?
Yeah.
I'm listening to Pastor Free talk, right? I'm listening to him talk. And now in my head, I'm starting to think about how many people I have socialized with from the church, away from the church, and now how they address me differently.
Yeah, because you're common and you cannot receive what you don't respect.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna tell you, I've experienced it firsthand, man. Just like you guys, I've experienced it firsthand. And you go, because because me and my family, we like a game family. Bishop, you already know that. I mean, we're playing Phase 10, Monopoly, Farco. You
don't have to name them all out, Bright. You ain't got to name all of them.
Yeah. I'm just letting folks know we's a family. We's a game family. But early on, I used to play spades and dominoes with my members. Because we like that kind of stuff. But then you saw how it changed, just like what you and Free talking about, what you talking about, Eric. You saw how it changed, how they really dealt with you. And the real point, and please listen to me, the real point came to me when somebody offered to buy my newborn baby a baby crib from Goodwill. You don't buy your stuff from Goodwill.
Right.
Oh, Pastor, I have something that I was gonna put out for the bulk pickup. So you don't want it, but you think it's good for me? Like you thought we was there?
That's still on you, ain't it, Doc?
Yeah.
Breathe.
Nah, he ain't
here for that.
That nigga get mad.
No, don't say baby stroller around me.
Yeah, I ain't here for that yet. Let's see here. And don't do. There's a lot of comments. I got to get to them. And don't do dirt in your own house. If you're going to lie, steal, whore, etc., don't do it with your own people. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, but I think that's even a leadership principle too, right? Just from executive leadership, executive management. Many companies have non-fraternization agreements. Don't bring that in our company. We're here about the business. And I think for many people, just to jump on up, many people, pastors, leaders, different people don't realize that the purpose of the church, like it's not for you to have, I know we talk about community and family and all that, but there's a mission behind that. That's bigger than you having new people to hang out with.
Well, I'm gonna stir that pot because I feel some kind of way. I get about that, don't eat where you mess. I get that part. But if I get one more pastor jumping in the inbox of my members and they come and telling me about, you know what I'm saying? So cool, don't mess where you are, but don't come adding burden.
Hold up. Oh no, you didn't start it, right?
Yeah, I'm just saying, No, if I bring you in to preach, and you come in and then you mishandle yourself, you do a lot of things. First of all, you should, because people believe that whole birds of a feather flock together thing. So if this who pastor brought in, this must be who pastor is, and that type of thing. I just, So I appreciate the comment, but yeah.
Yeah, but let me tell you something. So we had a pastor, we had a couple of pastors, Bishop Bright is aware, who that same scenario happened, where they began to operate. We had actually 3 come to mind where they operate and they have not been back because they did that same exact thing. I am a believer that you stay as a shepherd, you stay out of other people's sheepfolds. If you're a single pastor, you have an interest in someone, you go to that pastor, man of God. I'm interested in Sheila E. All right, I'm just you random name. All right, because I don't need nobody in my inbox.
She play the drums.
I'm just because somebody be in my inbox, Bishop. You call my name out, and I just know. There the message go right there. Listen, so I got to be specific, but and he the whole scenario went on. Bishop, the woman told on him and brought us 120 pages of chat back and forth and said, here you go. This is what's been going on. And I thought you knew because y'all were friends. I confronted the man of God and said, sir, this is out of order and out of line. I said, this is a total mess. A total mess. I saw another scenario like that.
Option where I thought you knew. That's the thing there, boy.
Correct. Back to Pastor Free's point. So I'm glad he started because that's another great point. Those are just sloppy people, and one sloppy does not represent everybody because I am ardently against that. I am the type to where if somebody, I'll just use Pastor Jones for example. If somebody said, I go to, is it Emmanuel, Pastor? I go to Emmanuel. Yeah. I would say, great. Well, I'm going to talk to Pastor and I will communicate through that, but you're not going to talk to me directly. We don't do that. Matter of fact, who is your pastor? Because we don't do that. So I love what you said, Pastor, because I've had that happen 3 times. And each time those individuals have not been back. And I have made it very clear from the pulpit in a respectful way, because I'm a pro man of God guy. So I believe in what we do. But this is not me, and this does not represent who we are. This is not acceptable for someone to do that.
Yes, they do. Let's see, boy. We got
Hey, man, the gold teeth sheep, that was classic. No, I
No,
can't.
listen.
That,
You need more
that was.
like
That
you need to
was.
have a pastor
Sometimes
made
I'm
into a
on. When I'm
series.
on, I'm on. Because
I
can't you
needed that.
just see it? Because you see it in your head. Anyway,
but look at what Pastor
Okay,
Jason said.
so
I allow
free. That's why I'm tripping because I got a visual when you said it.
look, look,
I'm
look,
about to
look at
buy
what
him
look at
for
what
that.
Pastor Jason said. I allowed one of the deacons to address me by my first name, and our relationship changed. Um,
Yeah,
I
that's against
thought we
normal
were close.
etiquette. I blocked somebody last night on prayer who did that. That's a good. You do not come. I'm not sure. You don't come to me that way. And if that's a problem for you, I understand. Find you somebody else to follow.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. All right. Good. 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 All right. So let me take this comment down. Man, this has been great, great, great conversation. Here's what I guess how I want to wind the conversation down. So
did you say wine?
wind.
Oh,
Let
So
me find out.
yeah. How do we? So then, I, I guess what's the period? Where do we place the period? The period is this. Is that I agree. I think there's been a preponderance of conversation that suggests the reality is. You see, all them words I just kind of put together like that. The reality is you can't handle it sometimes, and so we have to be protective. And it's not that we being hypocritical, but the reality is you can't see too much because you can't handle it. And we don't want the responsibility of you saying, I would have never done that. Because I'm going to tell you, I've told Bishop Foreman this story before, similar to what you said, is that there was a time I had a real misunderstanding of who pastors were until I became a preacher. And I remember saying, oh, you do that? You can say that, yeah, you can wear that, that kind of thing. But they did a good job, I think, of not being so open. Are we, and here's the last question of the night, are we this new generation of pastors who are younger? And maybe because all the pastors I really knew back then were old, and now all the pastors that I know now are young. But
Well, the
is
reality is, Roy, when we were younger, they were really our age.
that
You
what
know what I
it
mean?
is?
We just
I guess you might be right. I guess you might be right. But are we? What was my question? Are we too open? Are we too? Do we put too much out in the ether for people to have to decipher?
I feel like pride and hubris have definitely invaded the ranks of ministry at this point. That people are not even interested in ministry no more. They're concerned about a brand. And so like that bravado and that swag, it dominates everything. Because to me, there's a difference between me being human and me abusing my power. And I feel like there are a lot of pastors who have done a lot of dirt because they could. Like, who gonna check me? What you gonna do? And especially in the black culture, we were kind of raised up that if you can preach, like if you can dump the house and don't fool around and be gifted, then you can live any kind of way. Just get to the pulpit on Sunday and it all washes away. My favorite all-time preacher is Clarence LaVon Franklin. But it has been well documented that my dude had like some demons, but it didn't even matter because he was gifted. And so
until this
to a
day
certain
is
extent,
still him.
yeah, to a certain extent, he was able to abuse his position and abuse his authority and his gift. And so I think that it's a lot more of that going on. That a lot of people who don't respect the traditions of the church or ministry, they just see that they got a little power, they got a little authority, and they running things, and so they do whatever they want to do whenever they want to do it.
Do you think? But Deshaun, do you think it's different culturally? Do you think that the less melanated brethren have the same issues?
I'm gonna be honest, and I believe that this is a cultural issue, and that's because I have God has blessed me to kind of have fellowship with white pastors. We got a lot of differences in our culture, but
Facts,
I
bro.
believe it's all systemic too, right? In our culture, is very rare for us to have anything. So you fool around and give somebody some power, some authority, and they don't know what to do with it, they will abuse it. So it's systemic. Whereas our white counterparts, they kind of grow up with something to run. You got a business when you 10 because anyway. So I think that's part of it, but I also think social media plays a huge part. I'm sure it's already been said. There's nothing new under the sun. People are doing what they've been doing, but now you can get blasted easily, right? People know all over the country, you know. And then I think the last thing I want to say is that, man, people lie. Like, and that's one reason why I try to be very cautious about the way I live, because like people will make up enough lies to where I don't need to give them nothing, right? And in the story of Joseph, a lie is told because the cloak is left. And if I'm never close enough for you to put your hands on my cloak, then maybe I can cut down on the lies. But I still know Negroes will say, you wasn't even there. They'll be like, yeah, Free was there too, and yada, yada, yada. And the thing I can't stand is that people will believe it without fact checking or anything. It's like they want to believe some negative stuff because bad news travels fast.
But do they believe it because we have given the vibe that that's potentially who we are, or do they believe it just because they like me?
I don't think you have to give the vibe that that's who you are, because as a matter of fact, it's a juicier story if that's not supposedly who you are.
I agree with
I think Negroes like to tell lies, like they like drama. They like to put out a story. And that's sad, man. Like if somebody come and tell me something about somebody, if I care enough to even entertain it, because first of all, if it's somebody else's business, that what they got to do with me. But if I care enough to entertain it, I need to know, hey, is this true? I'm gonna come to you. I'm gonna talk to people who are close to you, who know you, to validate the story. And then that's just for my comfort. That's just, for me knowing. I'm not finna run tell nobody else, but we just live in a culture where people are quick to want to tell somebody what they seen or what they heard. And they don't realize, man, you affecting somebody's family, somebody's livelihood, their integrity in the public square just because you want to gossip. And that's like stupid to me. Like, sometimes I'd be real embarrassed at our people. But anyway, you feel me out of my
final thoughts, Jones?
Say it one more time. You're breaking up.
What are your final thoughts?
Jones leaned into the camera like a senior citizen. They'd be real close. Say it again.
This dude is stupid. I hope you choke on your drink. There's not a period. It'll never end, right? The thing that I hate about it, if you, me, Bishop Foreman, and Free are on this platform tonight, tomorrow Bishop gets into something. Well, I'm gonna say Bishop Brackett. He's more likely.
What?
The issue is, but seriously, the problem is they're gonna view us all the same, and they're gonna broad brush us off. I told you that's how they won't say. You hear what Bishop Bright did, right? They're gonna say them, and they were just on there the other night. So my thing is this: give us grace. Give us the same grace that God gives us. Stop putting us in a place we didn't ask for. I don't mind being high enough to be respected, but not too high to where you expect me to be your spiritual Superman. And your pastor is a human, for real. He's a human, And so I remember the first day when one of my musicians was playing for us, and I walked out there before church, and I had on shorts and some J's. He was like, "What?" You know what I mean? Like, we are human beings. Like, we're not just like pastor that guy every day. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're gonna be humans, and I just wish that people would give us the same grace that they give others around them, and still love us the same.
Now, Jones, people will never respect you when they didn't see your knees, Doc.
That I don't blame you. That I wouldn't either, bro.
Once they see your knees, it's over.
Bishop Foreman, I want you to address this, Bishop Foreman. Ivy says black pastors require that standard more than white pastors when we're just talking about the contrast. Because Q said black people also hold our pastors in higher regard than the whites. And then Ivy said black pastors require that standard more than white pastors.
Again, I can only speak from my paradigm, and because again, the church is not a monolith. Even African American led churches are not a monolith. So I can't speak to that. From that, I would not say that black pastors require that more so than I think that it is just a cultural. It's cultural, and for that deal. And again, to this, my experience is slightly different, just even in some of what the gentleman just said. That I believe that the reality, is when it comes to a pastor and how pastors viewed and that kind of thing. I agree with what Pastor E said. You need grace. I agree with what Pastor Free said in terms of the importance of needing to, be careful about how one lives and being good. I think at the end of the day, if I was to surmise it for myself, is the heart of a shepherd is that a shepherd does what's necessary to protect the sheep, and fight the sheep, defend the sheep, even if the sheep got gold teeth. I look for a picture of one, Pastor Free. I could not find one, but I'm going to call my graphics. They will have one. I'm doing a series with it, and I will share it with you because I'm going to do a series with that. That is going to be hilarious.
I'm gonna make a T-shirt. So send me the graphic. Yeah.
I think I saw it at first Free.
I'm gonna tell you why that's funny, because when Jude was on a few weeks ago, we were talking about something with Mother having can't play the piano like some with those boxing gloves on, and they sent me a picture of it.
I want to see that, bro. I want to see that.
I'm gonna send you the picture for
it.
Deshaun, you saw it, didn't you? That was funny. Okay, all right, guys. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. Thank you, men of God, for being on the show. I think we had a great time. I'll see you next Tuesday for Outside the Box. Laters, deuces.